Peter discovered a job that perfectly aligned with his favorite pastime, napping. Little did he know, this scientific nap wasn't a typical snooze. It involved extreme sleeping conditions, like napping through an earthquake simulation or with Lois vacuuming right next to him. Peter signed up without hesitation, excited about the prospect of being a professional napper. When the reality of the chaos during these naps set in, Peter wondered if he'd bitten off more than he could nap. In another episode of Peter's unexpectedly adventurous life, he accidentally started a cult. It all began when he shared random life advice on social media as a joke. Overnight, his words took the internet by storm, and soon, people started treating him like a spiritual guru. Meg attempted to stop the madness, but Peter, now drunk on social media fame, built a throne out of beer cans and declared himself the enlightened dude. Many cups were emptied, and Peter sat triumphant, immensely pleased with his expert-level procrastination disguised as wisdom. Peter's reign didn't stop with social media. During a whimsical visit to a Renaissance fair, he got drunk and proclaimed himself king of the realm. Surprisingly, the staff played along with his coronation. Reigning over trades of turkey legs, unauthorized justs, and fending off a rebellion led by Stewie dressed as a tiny wizard, Peter discovered an unexpected talent for medieval monarchy. Back home, Peter faced his greatest nemesis, the neighborhood goose. This villainous bird began terrorizing Peter right in his own backyard. Declaring all-out war, Peter utilized traps, disguises, and even enlisted Brian as a decoy. Alas, the goose always proved to be a step ahead. When the goose finally migrated for the season, Peter hosted a grand victory parade in his driveway, celebrating his meticulous failure. In Peter's final escapade, he purchased a stylish pair of green pants from a questionable thrift store. Little did he know, these pants were possessed. They caused Peter to dance involuntarily, walk straight into danger, and occasionally slap Quagmire with no control. Stewie, in typical heroic fashion, performed an exorcism using disco music, saving Peter from becoming the town's strange dancing puppet. All in all, Peter lived a life of unintended hilarity, each adventure more absurd than the last. But in his chaotic world, it was the unpredictability that made every day worth waking up, or rather, worth napping through. One fine Saturday in Quahog, Peter Griffin found himself on a mission, a culinary mission, to beat a local record and create a monumental 12-foot sub sandwich, an endeavor as grandiose as his belly. Armed with lettuce, layers of ham, and Swiss cheese stacked high, Peter was a force to be reckoned with in the world of sandwich artistry. But little did he know, his magnificent creation would become the talk of the town, but not quite in the way he envisioned. As Peter stood admiring his meat-filled masterpiece, his triumph was short-lived. Like moths to a flame, every raccoon from all corners of the neighborhood was drawn by the tantalizing aroma of cured meats and fresh bread. "They can smell the bacon," Peter muttered, clutching mustard bottles, prepared for battle like a condiment warrior. Squirt, squirt, he wielded his mustard bottles with the precision of an artist and the ferocity of a madman. "No one steals my meat dreams," he shouted, mustard flying at furry interlopers, as if his life depended on it. The raccoons, startled and flecked with yellow, scampered away, and Peter stood victorious, albeit glaringly mustard-stained. After surviving an ambush by the hungry raccoon community, Peter decided to unwind at the mall. As it happens, a breakdancer was performing to a small crowd. Peter, feeling the rhythmic tug at his whimsical heartstrings, challenged him in a dance battle. "I bet I can spin on my back like that guy," Peter bragged, eager to show off his non-existent breakdancing prowess. In a twist of sheer comedy, Peter managed a surprisingly smooth spin, thanks to a fortuitous slip on a puddle of spilled soda. Tumbling perilously into a pretzel stand, knocking salty knots everywhere, he came to a clumsy stop. Yet, to his delight, the crowd erupted into applause. Peter, slightly dazed and sporting a pretzel crown, waved graciously, triumphantly drunk on merriment rather than skill. Finally, inspired by a thirst only quenched by boxed beverages, Peter dove headfirst into the world of invention, to create what he called a remote beer fetcher. In his mind, it was a brilliant contraption, a skateboard tied to a rope, capable of delivering cold libations at his whim. Peter had Lois hold one end of the rope while he guided the skateboard toward the kitchen, his excitement bubbling over much like the root beer he imagined in a frosty mug. Unfortunately, the contraption had a mind of its own, zooming at an unpredictable speed. With a crash reminiscent of a high-speed mishap involving a new ceramic vase gift for Lois, it returned, not with a beer, but Stewie's juice box tied precariously to its makeshift trailer. Peter lifted the juice box proudly, sipping like a refined gentleman, totally oblivious to Lois's faint scream of horror at the broken vase. "See, it works," Peter declared triumphantly, leaving those who watched bewildered yet oddly charmed by his inimitable exploits. Thus concluded another chapter in Peter's utterly quahogen and undeniably hilarious escapades, where sandwiches became territorial possessions, dancing passed for accidental artistry, and inventions paved the way for childishly wonderful beverages. Peter opens a drive-thru in his living room. It all started when Peter Griffin, the king of couch potatoes, realized he's just too downright lazy to trudge into the kitchen for his daily fix of leftover pizza and mystery meat sandwiches. Inspired by a daydream, he decided to turn the Griffin household into the first ever fast food drive-thru, right smack dab in his living room. Peter didn't spare any expense or humility in this endeavor. He bought a conveyor belt and roller skates. Chris was appointed the chief burger architect. They called the apparatus the Burger Belt. Word began circulating around Quahog, roughly 3.5 minutes after Peter's first Facebook post, and the entire neighborhood lined up for freestyle culinary chaos. To everyone's surprise, Chris burgers were apparently edible, maybe even tasty. But chaos couldn't just stand by and watch, it had a starring role. Between Joe crashing through the front gate on his scooter and Cleveland colliding into the sofa trying to pick up an order, the living room turned into a circus. Lois shook her head watching toddlers on roller skates crash into the furniture like bumper cars. Peter swaps lives with Stewie. The sparks of hilarity continued when Peter stumbled upon one of Stewie's inventions, and before he could spell miscalculation, he found himself gazing in a mirror reflecting Stewie's cherubic, albeit diaper-clad visage. Meanwhile, an eerily adult-like Stewie stared back as Peter in utter disbelief. Stewie had immediate regrets. Peter's dietary choices included bacon-wrapped pretzels and beef jerky dipped in ketchup. Stewie frowned as he felt his now larger waistline expand with every nutritious bite. On the flip side, Peter thrilled at his new vocabulary and pint-sized physique until diaper time. The sudden, sharp realization struck him like a thunderstorm. If vocabulary could save him from this, he'd have intellectualized himself out of misery. Peter becomes a social media influencer. Peter's next venture was exploring the depths of the internet with nothing but a camera phone and zero shame. He envisioned fame and fortune by showcasing super stunts like eating a whole stick of butter or elegantly cannonballing into a fizzy pool full of soda. His venture into the online world was met with OMG tweets and comments. Talk of a sponsorship deal came from a tofu firm demanding a vegan oath. Alas, a butter aficionado's heart snapped at the suggestion of tofu, and Peter's influencer reign was short-lived but unforgettable. Peter gets trapped in a reality show. Peter's journey intensified as he applied for America's Next Average Dad. Little did he know he'd be trapped in a house with other hopeless fathers. He navigated parenthood mishap meetings with ignorable ambition. Peter's hard-headed antics inadvertently cast him in the role of villain, teaching toddlers soccer with a bowling ball and serving spaghetti soaked in soda. When voting came, Lois ironically cast the deciding ballot, winning him unwanted freedom. Peter invents a new sport. Just as Quahog began whispering tales of Peter's escapades, he devised the revolutionary sing and strike while lounging in the back seat of a parked car. Peter was convinced he had stumbled upon the greatest winter activity idea since snowball fights. How hard could it be to make a backyard ice rink? A few chilly nights, a little ingenuity, and voila, it's a Canadian dream realized in suburbia. He flooded his backyard with water from an ancient garden hose that looked suspiciously like a contender for first hose ever made. Little did Peter know, instead of a smooth ice rink, he was crafting what looked more like a frozen slip-and-slide, the likes of which would entice any kid but horrify any parent with a penchant for dry cleaning bills. Peter, however, was not deterred by mere physics. He decided to showcase his figure skating prowess to anyone and everyone who would watch, regardless of their interest level or, frankly, their presence. His cheeks flushed with excitement, he imagined himself spinning in air with the grace of an Olympic skater, a vision profoundly unthreatened by reality. "I'll pull off a triple axel," he boasted to his cat, Snowball, who remained unimpressed as cats are wont to do. Lacing up his skates, Peter began skating with all the elegance of a penguin on roller blades. As he attempted his takeoff, one that involved the strategy of close your eyes and pray, he was airborne briefly, even majestically, before gravity remembered to do its job. What followed can only be described as a comedic ballet between man and snow, as Peter tumbled unceremoniously across the yard on his well-intentioned slip-and-slide. He smashed through the wooden fence separating his house from Cleveland's backyard barbecue, an event previously referred to by the neighbors as a meat magic. "Look out," cried Cleveland, holding a spatula with the kind of authority reserved for head chefs and people pulling their doomed friend out of the pool. Peter landed at Cleveland's feet, where he lay surrounded by a chorus of mirthful chuckles. The barbecue was saved, with minimal collateral damage, a few dropped hot dogs, and an overcooked steak now classified as charcoal. "I meant to do that," Peter mumbled, trying to recover his dignity as he dusted himself off and walked back to the remnants of his fence. Cleveland simply grinned. "A triple axel, you say? I'd give that about a 2.5 brave points and a solid 10 for effort in fence demolishing." Undeterred, and deciding backyard ice skating needed tweaks, Peter set off planning his next winter project, perhaps a neighborhood igloo competition or training for synchronized snowball fights. Whatever it was, he would face it with the same enthusiasm, a clearer understanding of gravity, and hopefully, a sturdier fence. Once upon a time, there lived a man named Peter who had an uncanny knack for finding himself in the most ridiculous situations. His life was a series of bizarre escapades, each more ludicrous than the last. One sunny weekend, Peter stumbled upon an antique yard sale down the street. Among the old trinkets and dusty heirlooms, a peculiar mirror caught his eye. The tag attached read, "Haunted, beware." But Peter, being Peter, thought that a haunted simply meant a good deal. He carried it with pride, oblivious to the neighbors' laughter as he passed. Excitedly, he hung the mirror in his living room. Its supernatural charm soon captivated him. Every glance at his reflection showed a skinnier, more dashing Peter. He was in awe, believing that all those cookies and nachos might finally be having their intended effect. Days went by, and Peter became a spectacle of vanity, until one ill-fated afternoon when the keychain pyramid of nacho eating loose its balance. The mirror cracked, revealing his true self, a cuddly bear masquerading as a man. With a grand flourish, Peter fainted, clutching his heart, much like a diva in a melodrama. Determined to change his fate, Peter embarked on a new career as a park ranger. Tasked with protecting wildlife, the colossal genius planned a grand marshmallow roasting, entirely oblivious to the congregation of bears around. These bears were the park's leading tricksters, already plotting their culinary conquests. As Peter monologued passionately about the finesse of roasting marshmallows to a perfect golden hue, the bears executed their perfect heist, snatching picnic baskets with unparalleled stealth. With Peter still unaware of his furry audience's true intentions, he led them in a conga line, marching into the nearby town like a misplaced Columbus Day parade. Orange and blue, Peter returned to the living room, strutting about like a peacock. Lois shook her head exasperatedly. "At least you're not green this time, honey." In pursuit of fame, Peter united his steadfast friends, Joe, Quagmire, and Cleveland, to form a garage band. None had any musical talent, but that minor technicality wasn't going to stop them. Their cacophony resounded like a symphony from the depths of, well, nowhere anyone would want to visit upon sound alone. Despite their lackluster chords and disarray, the band went viral. The internet dubbed them the Portal of Pandemonium. Their live performance became a festive gathering of masochistic fans who adored their audacity and earned the title of the best, so bet it's good, band. Ever the visionary, Peter ventured into the culinary arts with a Peter's Eats on YouTube. Think of something gourmet like beef Wellington or sushi rolls. Peter thought they'd pair fabulously with gummy bears and ketchup.